Right, hey folks, so welcome to chest day. It's chest day today. Chest and shoulders. Plan for today is around about 8 sets of chest and about 8 sets of delts. Just side delts is what I'm planning. But let's talk hydration. Before we start with that, let's talk hydration. I think hydration is one of those areas where there's still a lot of confusion about what people mean with hydration. First, in terms of what it actually is, but also how much you should be having as a grown adult male. And like 99% of you are guys, so yeah, you can lower the amounts if you're a woman. But in general, hydration refers to water, but also electrolytes. The problem with just drinking water is if you're not having sufficient electrolytes, let's say you're dieting, you're having less food, you're not salting your food, all that kind of stuff, you're going to end up in a situation where you actually, in a way, almost make yourself more dehydrated because you're drinking water, you're peeing out electrolytes. It's not a good situation. So what I like to do is, within about a couple of litres of water for the gym, I like to include in that about 5 grams of salt, which is roughly 2 grams of sodium, and about 1 gram of potassium. I also have some magnesium with my morning supplements. So it's almost like a liquid IV kind of thing. But it makes a big difference. Hydration is huge. I mean, I remember I went through a period of time, probably 2015, where I was having a lot of cramps. And I wasn't really paying attention to electrolytes as such. But I would cramp all the time. Like legs would cramp, hamstrings, followed by like inner thighs, and then frontal thighs as well. Everything would just cramp up. I didn't have anyone to tell me at the time, look, it's just a hydration issue. Drinking lots of water, all that stuff, but just kept cramping up. And I thought nothing of it, you know. But ever since I started paying a lot more attention to salt, potassium, magnesium, all that stuff, all the cramps go away. I would also say it makes me stronger in the gym because you're just fuller. Your goal is you want to be as full as possible. Imagine a big balloon just full up with as much stuff as possible, glycogen, water, everything. Especially true in your diet, but also when you're bulking too. So yeah, plenty of electrolytes, make you nice and full. I also personally feel that it keeps you, it prevents injury. I think to a certain extent it does prevent injury. I think if you're slightly dehydrated, you're probably going to be more prone to little pulls, little niggling kind of pulls and tears. And, touch wood, I hardly ever get any anymore. And I think part of that is hydration alongside better training practices. But yeah, get on your hydration. It's super important. Okay, I'm going to whip through some warm-up sets and I will probably join you guys again for the first working set. Right, going to take my time warming up. So warm-ups alongside hydration, it's another thing you can do to stay, well, you're never going to stay injury-free. You know, if you don't want to be injured, don't go to the gym, right? But to minimize your risk of injury, effective warm-ups. So before I even got onto film, I spent about 10 minutes on the cable machines, just warming up my elbows, shoulder joint, just getting everything loose, getting some blood in there. The precise mechanism, I think, is to do with synovial fluid. Laying a bit of science on you guys here now, but synovial fluid you can think of as kind of like the oil in your car. Okay, it keeps everything loose. The thing is, when it comes to your body, it's a little bit like wax in a sense that at room temperature it gets more solid. Now, as you warm up, the synovial fluid breaks down and starts to become more of a lubricant, which is why you don't really want to go to the gym and just start lifting because your body hasn't got time to actually loosen up. So I guess it's not dissimilar to a car either. The oil needs time to warm up, right? You get the idea. It's not a perfect analogy, so don't get caught up on it. But the idea is you're just warming stuff up and breaking down some of that synovial fluid to give your lubricants, give your joints lubrication. Alongside effective hydration, good sleep, you can do your best to lift safely. So that's the goal. And then on the way up for the first exercise, I just like to go nice and slow. take a good few warm-ups to get to my working weight. Right. That was a pretty sweet result on the incline press. Happy with that. So that was 2 reps more than last time. So I'll take it. The incline press is a new one for me. So a while back, in fact, I'd say most of this year, I've struggled with a bit of soreness, just in the chest insertion, like right here, deep in. And I've tried everything, tried to rehab it normal ways. But whenever I get up to some heavy poundages, it always continues to hurt, mostly during lockout, weirdly enough, not even down here. So in the end, I was playing around a few weeks back, tried an incline. Actually, I can incline press with absolutely no trouble at all. So I thought, you know what, I'll do this for a while, maybe 6 months, 8 months, and I'll go back to flat variations and see if I'm, see what the pain's like then. But for now, I can train hardcore, go all out with 0 pain, so it's a win. So I'll stick with the inclines for a while. The incline angle I use is about 45 degrees. I used to use a lower angle, 30 degrees, but I experimented with a slightly higher angle, about 45, and it feels pretty good. You get a lot of upper chest. You do get a lot of shoulder, but I don't necessarily mind that because I think you kind of get some side delts too. So it sort of builds up that entire shelf, which is a good look. You can't handle as much weight, but I think for development it's probably arguably better. So that's the choice behind the incline press. Right, I'm going to go straight into this after one brief warm-up because I'm pretty warm now. So this is my main set. Goal is to get more than 8 reps. So let's go. That was another PR. 2 more reps. Yeah, really happy with this. So you might see me really kind of struggling with the reps and occasionally moving down to partials. And if I've got access to a decent spotter, I might do negatives as well. That's just because you want to try and get the most out of every set. I had this conversation a lot, and I see this sentiment quite a lot. That is this idea that forced reps, negatives, partials are all too stressful on the CNS. I just think that's like maybe for you, like if you do a forced rep and you just take ages to recover, you know, like a week, 2 weeks and stuff, and you're burnt out. But I don't see it, you know. I'm 42. I don't really see all this stuff that a lot of guys are talking about, this burnout. I don't really see it. And I think a lot of it is just in your head. Not, not, not trying to gaslight anyone here, but I do think a lot of these recovery concerns are in people's heads. They've just been told that if you do a negative or forced reps, they're way too stressful. But in practice, if you're eating a good diet, if you're sleeping the way you should be, you're hydrating, you're warming up right, it's just good stimulus. I would rather get as much stimulus from a set as I possibly can. And in my eyes, when I do a couple of partial reps, a couple of forced reps, I don't feel that really extends anything past the point where it feels damaging. I'd say there's maybe one exception. So I think if you're doing a very low volume routine where you're handling weights which are right up there, like right up to your 1 rep max, maybe you're doing a 5 rep max or a 6 rep max, then maybe there's cause for concern, especially if you're doing that with barbell lifts. Maybe, you know. I've certainly had that in the past. But I think if you're doing bodybuilding style training where the majority of your reps are going to be in the 8 to 20 rep range, yeah, you can do force reps then. You can do negatives, you can do partials, and all you're going to get is just better stimulus. That's just my take. Right, call it a day on that exercise. This right pec felt a little bit weird. It felt like not tweaked or anything, not injured, but it just felt a little bit strained. So I'll leave it there. I'm going to jump onto the Pec Dec. I'll just do a quick feeler. So right, so yeah, that machine. I think the technical term for that, the engineering term for that, is that it's fucked. So I'm going to go on to this Pec Dec. This is actually my favorite Pec Dec, it's the old school one. I'm going to try and smash out a good set here. Right, final set of chest. Full stack on the Pec Dec. Let's see Karelsa King hit this weight. Right, so delts next, 8 sets. Now, a while back, a few months ago, I made a video questioning whether we need to overhead press or not. Mostly it was well considered, you know, because essentially it was a question video. It wasn't a definitive, you must not overhead press. It was just questioning the validity of whether you need to do one. Now, there was some backlash, some very kind of emotional backlash by some corners of the audience. Very sort of, I say emotional because there was no real argumentation. It was just, you must overhead press the big shoulders. Kind of like, if you don't overhead press, you're stupid kind of thing. Obviously, hadn't really watched the video or hadn't taken time to consider what I was saying. But over time, I've been more and more firm in my beliefs that actually, I don't think it is necessary from a hypertrophy perspective. I think the issue is, if you're trying to increase your pressing muscles, which you should be doing, really, the best bang for your buck is going to be volume on pressing. Now, if you add a bunch of overhead press volume on top of that, all it's going to do is give you additional recovery problems in your shoulders and your elbows. More often than not, what I see is guys who get to the kind of two-plate bench level, sometimes before that, and they just can't recover because they're getting elbow problems, shoulder problems, because of excessive overhead pressing on top of that. And you guys got to remember, the overhead press doesn't really do much for the bench press. It's not like it's an assistance exercise. Also, on top of that, it heavily hits the front delts, doesn't really hit the side delts as hard as laterals. So it's a recipe for overtraining shoulder and elbow problems if you are hitting the chest with as much intensity as you should be doing, and then undertraining your delts. So when it comes to a counter argument to those points, I'd love to hear it. You know, what's the counter argument to that? Well, just recover better, I guess, just be better. It's not really an argument though, is it? Or don't overhead press, you must overhead press, otherwise you're a pussy. That's not really an argument either. Or if you want bigger shoulders, you've got overhead press. It's not really an argument either. You can apply that to anything. So I've seen, as a coach, I coach people day in, day out. I've seen definite recovery issues adding the overhead press to significant amounts where you want to be trying to grow your delts. It just makes sense. Really, the function of this head of the delt is to raise your arm from here to here. Now, the purest way to do that is with some type of lateral. As well as that, it has less joint stress, allow you to load up your chest with bigger weights, incline presses, chest presses, dumbbell benches, all that stuff. So that's more and more what my model of training myself is going. I rarely include overhead presses in clients' routines unless they specifically have a need to increase the overhead press or they have a preference for it. Normally it's just a preference. But yeah, you often see this in some areas of the internet, but there's no coherent argument. It's just like man shit that people say. But I'd rather just have big delts, you know. You guys do what you want, really. Ah! 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 Oh, oh, ah, 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 ah. Oh.